Hello everybody and welcome back to another video here today on RJ's Trains. And as you can probably tell, I am not in my train room. I am away at school right now in Washington, D.C. So I'm obviously not at the train layout, but as you could tell by the thumbnail and title, today we're going to be installing some figures into some Railking passenger cars. Now I will talk about the figures in just a little bit, but let's unbox these passenger cars real quick. All right, and here we are at the kitchen table, a very far walk across the apartment. But nevertheless, I've got these unboxed, and these are spectacular passenger cars. I will admit, it's been about a day since I filmed that unpacking section earlier, so I've gotten a good look at these over the past 24 hours. And I'm not gonna do an in-depth review right now because I can't run them, but I'm just gonna point out a few things that I really like about it. And so the first thing is the paint scheme, the brown Tuscan, Pennsylvania Tuscan, Long Island Railroad paint scheme. For me personally, these cars mean a lot because growing up, I would always pass one of these passenger cars sitting on the side of the Long Island Expressway at the Suffolk County Visitors Center. And so I always enjoyed seeing it as I drove past. So it's really nice to get these in my collection. So the first car, this is a RPO baggage car, really nice, and I'm glad that they included the RPO baggage car because the Long Island Railroad did have a lot of post office services. The Long Island Railroad did have standard baggage cars, but I really like having the RPO car come with the 4-car set, and you can get the baggage car with the add-on 2-pack. Additionally, it is car number 7724, and as far as I could find, 7724 is actually a B60 baggage car. So let's just pretend that the Long Island Railroad rebuilt this car into that standard B60 baggage car. Another feature that I really like about these cars is that it actually comes with 6 axles, which I don't have any passenger cars with 6 axles. It's really nice. It matches the prototype that also had 6 axles. And it's a real great car. The doors do open up even on the baggage side. And yeah, great car. And so next up are the 2 coach cars. And I'm not gonna go into them in too much detail separately because they're exactly the same. Really nice gold lettering and trimming on the side. This one is car number 815, and the second one is car number 819. And from Long Island Railroad records, these are P70A passenger cars that were built in the 1920s by Pullman. And so it's really cool. I'm able to look up the exact year that these things were built, the real life versions. Really nice. And then of course the seats and the interiors, which we'll be decorating in just a little bit. The doors don't open on this. You do have nice rubber diaphragms as you get on all the cars. And yeah, these 2 are really great passenger cars. And last but not least, it is the observation parlor car. And so instead of having a number, this one is Jamaica, which is very interesting. The Long Island Railroad over its time actually had 2 separate Jamaica observation cars. The only difference is that on the real life Long Island Railroad ones, it had a physical deck on the back of it. Now, later on in the Long Island Railroad's history, they did end up removing all of the observation decks on the back of their passenger cars to comply with FRA standards. Around the 1960s, 1970s, they realized it wasn't all that great for people to just be hanging off the back of trains on these observation decks, so a lot of railroads had to remove them. It would have been after the Long Island Railroad ditched this paint scheme, which they probably did in the mid-1940s. But still a really cool car. And this passenger car is actually preserved today in Wantagh on Long Island. And so I could bring this to the actual prototype, but the only difference is being the real life one has the observation deck on the end. No big deal. I love this paint scheme, and it's just it's a very minor thing in the grand scheme of things. And last but not least, before we start putting the figures inside of the passenger cars, I just wanted to talk about the figures themselves. I can't even pronounce the company name. I got these off of Amazon. It came out to $16 plus tax for 100 painted figures. These come straight off the boat from China. The entire back of it is in Chinese. You know, they aren't the most beautiful looking figures. I'll include some close-up images of some of the figures. You get a really good deal, especially compared to the Lionel unpainted figures, where you get like a 32 pack for $35. So you're paying $1 per figure for unpainted ones. And I think like the 16 painted figures by Lionel cost about $30. So for $16, you get 100 of these. And really, you don't get too close zoomed in on your passenger cars. So it's fine having these more poorly painted ones. And that's what I'm doing. Also, I'm a college student on a budget, so I'm not going to spend a lot of money on passengers because I want to have these passenger cars cramped, because that's how the Long Island passenger cars are during the commuter rush hour. All right, so let's start installing these in the passenger cars. All right, and so let's take apart this passenger car. All right, and so today I'm going to be using Gorilla Gel Glue. I like this a little bit more for modeling because it's a little less runny, and I hate getting super glue on my hands, so I'm going to be using this particular. All right, and let's start gluing. All you're going to want to do is put a small little drop of glue onto the bottom of the figure itself. And so it seems like our friend in the purple here does not want to sit nicely on the passenger car. So we're just going to do a quick little amputation there. Let's see how he fits. So we've got the first one in. Like I said, these figures aren't going to be perfect. You know, they're very cheaply made. So I probably am going to have to do a little bit more cutting with these. So I'm going to time lapse it, and I'll show you the finished result with this passenger car once I'm done. All right, so I will admit I cut the time lapse in half. I was having some problems with the super glue. I ended up wearing a lot of it, and I stopped to eat dinner, and I just didn't start the time lapse again when I finished this. But so I've finished the first coach car. I've got about 35 or so figures in here. Looking really good. Here's a side view. And like I said earlier, I had to cut off the legs of the passengers in order for them to fit in the seats. No big deal, because when you're looking at it like this, you can't really tell that they have no legs or not, unless you're up super close. And that doesn't really bother me. I'd rather just have the heads peeking out of the windows. All right, everybody, so Nicole and I just finished putting in all of the figures in the passenger cars. We've got about 10 left over, so I used about 90 figures between the 3 passenger cars, and they look great. There's only one thing left to do, and that's to run these on the layout. So let's see them run around the layout.